Hey guys, this is Igal with Kakao Academy channel, and today I'd like to talk to you about optional in Java. So first let's refer to official Oracle's documentation to learn more about optional. So optional is a type of value, and based on the documentation, optional is primarily intended for use as a method return type where there is a clear need to represent no result and where using null is likely to cause errors. Please pay attention to this line right here. This is not the only case when null is likely to cause errors. In general, it is considered a bad practice in Java to use null as a return value. As well, optional is a container object which may or may not contain a non-null value. If a value is present returns true. If no value is present, the object is considered empty, and is present returns false. So basically, when we talk about methods or functions in Java, we can rely on two concepts, provider and consumer. So let's say we have a class or method that would be a consumer, and it would expect a particular method to return a value. So what happens if we don't find this value? What happens if the value might not be present? Do we necessarily want to return null? Do we want to necessarily to throw an error or exception in case no value was found, etc., etc. So all these questions can be easily resolved by using this value type optional, which is pretty much improves your code, readability of your code, and makes handling value or the absence of value returned by a provider so much easier. So let's switch to the coding part, and I'll try to explain more. Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to mention one thing that optional is available since Java 8, and if I check my project, I'm currently using Java 11, but Java 8 also has optional available. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Java release when optional was first introduced. All right. Okay, so let's think about a class that we could call TMP, and this class is going to have a public method, public static, and it's going to return a string get matched element, and it will take a list of strings as a parameter, and let's say we are going to parse through this list of strings and do the following. So let's say we have here private static final string match constant, and let's call it xyz, give it a value xyz. Okay, so what are we trying to achieve here? So let's say I have a method that takes a list of strings, it parses through this list of strings, and in case any of the strings inside of this list matches my match constant, it returns back this string. All right, so what are we doing here? Something like for string as list of strings if s equals match, return s. All right, so as you can see, guys, the very first problem that we are facing here, if I point here, missing return statement. So logically, we parse through a list, we are looking for a matched element, and in case we find one, we return it. So what happens in case we don't find this matched element? Well, options are we can either return a null value, okay? We can have something like default, and default would be no matches found. Return default. We can throw new exception, no matches were found, to make this work, right? So, but what do we actually do by having something like that implemented? So this is a bad design. This is this method, the way it's designed, it forces consumer of this method to take into consideration potential exception, and if this method relies on some other methods that have unique exceptions, then we would have to deal with those exceptions as well, etc., etc. So how do we avoid such situations? Simple, we return optional instead. So to fix our issue, let's introduce an optional and specify string as a data type. Okay, and instead of returning s here, first we're gonna declare optional string optional s and have it as optional empty. So what we say as of right now, before we started parsing, we say that there is a variable called optional s, and right now it's empty, meaning we don't have any value assigned to it. So we start parsing through the list of strings, and then in case we find one, what do we want to do? We want to assign this value to our optional equals optional of s. Okay, and then the only thing left to do is to return our optional s. That's it. So again, we have optional s that is empty, but in case there is a match, we return, we assign this match to our optional and return optional. By the way, here we can also break to speed up the loop execution. So this is one way of doing it. Because of the optional, we have even better way to do it. We can rely on streams, and we can do something like return list of strings dot filter. Here we're gonna have our string, and here's what we're saying. Return s dot equals match. Okay, and here we're gonna say find first. That's it. So as you can see, guys, all we have to do is to stream through the elements of a list of strings list, filter it by looking for we can even simplify it here. Okay, filter it by looking for a match and return first. That's it. Look how elegant and simple it is. Okay, so we have a provider, getMatchedElement method. Let's give it a try. So we're gonna go to our main method of the main demo class. First of all, let's create a list of strings. And have it ABC, D, E, F, one more, OPR, and X, Y, Z. Awesome. So we have our list, and now what can we do? So we said we are gonna be looking for an element that would match a particular combination of characters here, right? So let's do XYZ here. All right. So what we can do next is the following. So we say optional with a string data type my optional equals tmp dot get matched element my list. That's it, guys. As simple as that. So by having this, we don't know yet if optional is returned to us with an actual value or it is returned as empty. So what we can do to avoid any sort of errors is using one of the methods provided by the optional data type. So we say if my optional is present, print out my optional. Okay, let's try to run this code and see if it works. Okay, so as you can see, we have some sort of a weird output. Basically, we outputting the optional and not the actual value. To output the actual value, what we do, we rely on another method, a built-in method, .get, and if we run it again, you see, we get the actual value. As simple as that, we can operate with return value. So we no longer need to take into account that get matched element might return a null value, it might throw an error, etc., etc., etc. So optional resolves all these issues and makes our code way more elegant, way more readable, and easier to maintain in the future. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye bye.